Combat Ufology with Argo. Transmission begins now.
Welcome back to Combat Ufology with Argo. Tonight, we're going to cover some chapters out of the book Sight Unseen by Budd Hopkins. This is our second part of Chapters of Truth. And we're going to start covering books and chapters in the books, and we're going to talk about accounts of alien abduction. So without any more wasting time, I'm going to get right to it with Argo, and he's going to read out of the book Sight Unseen. So here we go.
Okay, folks, so this book, Sight Unseen, is written by Budd Hopkins, and the stories that he tells in here, I think all of them but one, he's done the full regression with through multiple of their experiences. So you look to the internet for fantastical stories. This is going to be one of them, and this is real. It's called The Case of the Missing Ladies' Room, and I'm going to be reading it to you here. Lisa, a highly intelligent, articulate young woman in her middle 30s, and like Terry, a New Jersey resident, wrote me in 1986 about her odd experiences and disturbing UFO recollections. For example, she recalled a puzzling missing time incident that occurred when she was only about 7 years old. She and her mother had driven out one evening to pick up pizza for dinner. Consciously, Lisa recalled their buying the pizza and starting back home when they encountered some kind of roadblock, intense lights, and an indistinct group of men. In her next bit of conscious recollection, she and her mother were continuing their drive, feeling confused and shaken. When they arrived at home, Lisa's father was at the door, extremely worried because the short trip had taken an extraordinarily long time. Worse, neither Lisa nor her mother could explain what had happened or why they were more than an hour late. And were shocked to realize that the pizza that they had bought was missing. Lisa and I explored this incident among a number of others with the aid of hypnosis, and what emerged was a full-scale abduction of mother and child. Among the harrowing images she recalled was of that of her mother naked in some kind of trance state, being placed on an examination table by several alien beings. It was the first time Lisa recalled having seen her mother naked and helpless, a traumatic memory that had remained deeply etched within her subconscious mind. She had had other equally disturbing UFO encounters, which were explored over a period of a year or so. But one day she happened to mention an apparently unconnected incident that had always puzzled her. As we have seen in the case of Terry Winthrop, once an abductee begins to explore partially recalled UFO and missing time memories, other highly unusual, but not on their surface, non-UFO connected occurrences begin to float back into conscious memory. Lisa described a newly recalled incident this way. I was about 20 years old. I discovered an ad in the paper, and the job description was like a security job. I want to say private eye kind of thing, but I wasn't a private eye. I was like an inside, but it was like an inside security job, something like that. It was very appealing because they mentioned what great pay it was. I was going to college at the time, and the hours were good for me, evening hours. They must have given me instructions on the phone when I called from a number in the ad. This part is hard to remember, but I remember it was near Woodbridge, New Jersey. A woman told me how to get there. It's sketchy in my memory. I drove over to this office building, but it wasn't like a huge office complex. It wasn't a high-rise building. It had an elevator and was about 3 to 5 stories. I don't remember a sign on the door or anything like that, or the name of a company. It was like, go to this address and we're on the 3rd floor. I got to the place and it was very austere, not very nice office space. It was really shabby. There was a woman sitting at a desk, and I remember there was a phone on the desk and a wastebasket, and that was it. No pictures on the wall, no typewriter, no files, nothing. There wasn't even anything in the waste paper basket. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I asked the woman where the ladies' room was, and she was totally confused. It seems she didn't know where it was. She never gave a yes or a no or even, I don't know. That would have been okay. But she never said a word. She just looked stricken. There was no one else to ask, and it was really awkward. She got flustered and left the room. She had this very timid, frightened look, and it made me frightened too. There was nobody else there getting interviewed, just me. If I remember correctly, there was only one chair. I thought, what is this room for? It didn't look like a meeting room or a reception area, particularly. It looked like someone just put a desk there and a waste paper basket and a phone. Now that I think about it, I'm not even sure there was a place for me to sit, but I was pretty quickly ushered into the next room, and I met this black gentleman. Not real, not real light skin, but just kind of a fair black. He had a nice looking, well presented suit and tie, and he came off kind of stiff backed, like a military type. But it was a security job, so that makes sense. His office was a pretty small place with a window, and there was a water cooler. No files, no typewriter, or anything like that. It seems they must be only using this space to interview people. I remember filling out something on a clipboard, basic information, and then he poured me a cup of water, which I didn't really want since I had to go to the bathroom. It was the last thing I needed. And then he did all the talking. I was 20 years old and I didn't know any better. He went on about his position. He went on about this position, a position where you would be watching employees as they did their day-to-day work and make sure they weren't stealing anything to make sure they were on the up and up. And he said, not everyone can do this. My impression was that this was some kind of warehouse job where you'd have to squeal on your fellow employees. He didn't specify what kind of place it would be. It was general. He really wanted to impress on me, rather than the particulars of the site, this position, that not everyone can do this kind of work. Could you do this? Is it something you can handle psychologically? Rat on your fellow employees? I said it would depend on what kind of place it would be. I don't really know what you need. Will this be a warehouse or what? He went on and on. We're really concerned if you'll be able to do this. You'll get to know these people. He was doing all the talking, droning on and on. It put me to sleep. I remember having to lift my head up and having the distinct impression that, oh my God, this is really bad, that I had fallen asleep at a job interview. I was extremely self-conscious and embarrassed. I thought, oh my God, I hope he didn't notice I was asleep. And what happened immediately after this is he ushered me out of the room. I don't remember that he had ever specifically mentioned the salary or any money amount. He was impressing on me that I would be paid very well, but again, the whole thing was, quote, not everyone could do this. It was the evening hours that I was interested in that met my needs. Something else that was odd about this interview was that he never asked about my experience or really anything else. Normally, a job interview, you're the one on the spot. You're the one who talks. He did all the talking. He didn't seem interested in what I had to say about anything. I don't know how long it lasted, but then I kind of lost track because I just remember his droning on, and I fell asleep. So I don't know how long he'd been droning on about the whole thing. As soon as I woke up, he said, okay, thanks for your time. We'll definitely get together. And then kind of bums rushed me out the door. Huh. I felt the interview couldn't have gone well. I'd fallen asleep on the guy. When I left the room, the receptionist had gone. Nobody was around. The building was empty. It just seemed weird. It seems very weird, the whole thing. And I left without any particular impression. Usually you get a handshake. I kind of felt this was all too strange. I'm not sure what it was all about, and after his long droning on, I thought maybe I didn't even want a job like this. It was almost like he was trying to talk me out of it. It's a difficult job. Not many people can do it, and so on. I was happy to get out of there. And then there was something else. When I stood up, I felt that my pantyhose didn't feel right. The crotch wasn't in the right place. The pantyhose weren't exactly down around my knees, but they were not fitting right. It was uncomfortable. I remember feeling very self-conscious when I woke up. It says Miss B8 to let you know that this is Budd Hopkins. When the interviewer offered you a cup of water, did you drink it? Lisa. Yes, I believe I did. He had command of the room. He handed it to me and I drank. He had a kind of military command and he gave it to me and I drank it down. He was in control and I didn't think he gave a damn about what I thought one way or another. It was weird. It was very weird. You know, when something very weird happens, and then years later, when you look back, it still looks weird. It stood the test of time. But Hopkins, if the ad said the pay was good and the hours were good, isn't it odd that no one else was there applying for the job? Lisa, there was nobody else there, I can assure you. There wasn't even anyone in the lobby. This happened at a time when a lot of strangeness was going on in my life, missing time episodes, turning up in places and not knowing how I got there. But this was different. It was a distinct thing. I know I drove there, but the whole thing of falling asleep at a job interview was really peculiar. The whole nature of the interview was really peculiar. I have an image of him sitting on the edge of the desk, one cheek of his bottom up and one leg up, casual like. And I just remember the droning, yada, 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 and my nodding off. At least that's how it seemed to me. My feeling was, if he's going on like this, I shouldn't just sit there politely and listen. I should just sit there politely and listen. And that's what I did. I felt awful about falling asleep. How could I have done that? As a job interview, you're usually hyper vigilant. Strange interview. Strange interview. Budd Hopkins. Usually, if you fall asleep sitting down, your head drops and then snaps back, and the shock of that wakes you up. Did that happen? Lisa. I don't remember that. But I guess my head had been drooping. I was really shocked that he didn't catch it. If I was giving a job interview and somebody fell asleep, I'd say, "Are you okay?" I would be concerned. Unfortunately, I was never able to carry out a hypnotic session with Lisa about this bizarre incident. Essentially, we were concentrating on her more obviously UFO-connected recollections. But she also seemed somewhat reluctant to explore this experience. I sensed that this so-called job interview made her particularly uneasy, since it took place in what we might euphemistically call the real world, and apparently involved normal human beings, but the similarities to Terry's experience, in which you'll have to learn about Terry's experience by getting the book, Terry's experience were too great to ignore. It should be pointed out that at the time each told me about her experience, they had never met or communicated, though eventually I introduced them. Considered in chronological order, the similarities are striking. 1, both women are quite young at the time, 16 and 20. Both are undergoing a series of UFO abduction experiences. 2, both were, quote, interviewed in empty, unfurnished spaces, rooms that suggested impoverished, even amateur stage sets rather than locations for serious business. In Lisa's case, the flustered inability of the blonde receptionist to steer her to the ladies' room suggests an unprepared actress as well. 3, neither interviewer spelled out any details about the job for which the woman was applying. Neither mentions specific hours, pay, or requisite skills. Surely basic issues in any serious job interview. Number 4, neither woman was questioned about her employment record, training, schooling, availability, home address, telephone number. Although Terry was not asked to fill out an application, Lisa vaguely remembers a clipboard and a form she filled out. These facts alone show that these experiences were not actual job interviews, but pretext for something else. Both Terry directly and Lisa, by implication, were aware of the sexual aspect of their experiences. Terry reported that her interviewer's behavior stressed her interest in her sexuality, but Lisa's account of falling asleep at the droning hypnotic voice of her interviewer and then awakening to find her pantyhose disarranged is even more ominous. 6, neither woman was given the specific name and address of the company to which they were ostensibly applying for work, and neither left the interview with even so much as a business card or a piece of paper. In both instances, Terry and Lisa were the sole applicants for these alleged jobs. In Lisa's case, at least, a highly unlikely situation. And number 8, another similarity has to do with an important but subtle aspect of their experiences. Terry originally heard about her job from a stranger who approached her in a pizza parlor. She left home the next day, getting into her car with virtually no knowledge of who he was, what the job entailed, or where they were going. Lisa told me that she could not remember where she first heard about her job offer. She thinks she might have had read about it in a newspaper, and she is very unclear about how she knew where to drive for the interview. In quote, they must have given me instructions on the phone from a number in the ad. This part is hard to remember, end quote. She does not recall writing anything down, clipping out an ad, or keeping any kind of notes about how to get to the office. Thus, there is no evidence to suggest that she herself initiated the visit to the office, which leaves me with suspicion that Lisa, like Terry, was summoned by her mysterious interviewer for some kind of encounter which is not fully recalled. 9. Another similarity, though less clear-cut, has to do with the interviewers themselves. The interviewer in Terry's case, Mr. Nelson, was apparently gifted, if that term can be stretched a bit, with truly surprising psychic powers, in addition to possessing obvious connections with UFO occupants. By contrast, the only odd thing that Lisa's black interviewer was his droning voice, and that we must suspect was his ability to put his interviewee into a hypnotic trance. These are hardly the basic skills of run-of-the-mill personnel managers. So, what are we to make of these young female abductees? Bizarre experiences with normal-looking men of unusual abilities who meet with them for unknown reasons in real-world empty offices in crowded real-world New Jersey? Who are these men? Are they human or alien or something in between? That's the end of the chapter.
There's a whole lot to unwrap there, isn't there?
Crazy case.
Especially the part where they were bewildered about the bathroom question when she asked where the bathroom was at.
Well, you can just imagine a hubrid, and if anybody wants to know what that is, you go back and look through our pillar program, read the material, especially look at pillar number 7. So you got to imagine that these are just kind of freshly made humans out of the plastic, and they don't know anything about our world. When she asked where the laboratory's at, or the bathroom, like, what's she supposed to say? Her job was probably just to sit there and look like a secretary, which she did terribly. What do you get out of it?
Well, I question whether or not it was a Earth-based interview or if it was on board the ship. And was she really seeing what she was seeing? And had they taken over her mind in such a way that they were making her see what they wanted her to see?
Well, and that happened during the interview, but all the rest of it is a real world event. And I know you and I have talked about the chapter A Very Strange Perfume, where a girl winds up driving out to a building out on the edges of the city. Well, here she's visiting a building in inner city New Jersey.
That case that you just read is so similar to the other case. I mean, the
Yes.
details in that are just it's uncanny when you hear it. When you hear
what it shows is that they're starting to put down, like, I don't know, what do we call them?
Earth-based facilities.
I
Processing, like a processing center.
It's a training base, is what it seems like. Little training bases,
Mm-hmm.
And it's These are real experiences with real aliens and real things that happens to people who are really having this stuff. They live a life of strangeness.
The
And if you're out there listening now, we are friendly to you and we understand what you're going through. So if you want to write in with anything, feel free. Everything's confidential.
the drink that they talked about her taking a drink of something.
Yeah.
Um, that seems to be another thing that comes up in other abductee stories.
Substances?
Yes.
Yeah.
Different.
I don't get what that's about because you and I both know, one gray gets within that AOE range, he can literally get control of your mind as long as you're not in fear, in rage. If you're just in a nominal mental state, they can literally just grab a hold of you.
Right, so
Mentally.
they wouldn't need anything extra
Yeah.
to subdue your mind or your body, or because they can take control of that mentally.
If I had to look at it militaristically as an operation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how their whole society has to work, period, because you have to have security on a galactic starship the size of a planet to the nth degree. So to me, it sounds like literally each one of the interviewers were in training.
That, but then the drink. Let's go back and touch on the drink here. If you had some beings say that we're going to do a examination on this person, let's say, this drink could possibly be some kind of a like a sterilization of organisms, like like something that they would drink to kill. You know what I'm saying? To kill off bugs within the system that the beings or whatever are that it's going to come in contact with the human. It's basically like a parasitic, like an anti-parasitic drink is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, could be. I would tend to think it's the medium to help provide the psychosis, because
like a
so what obviously happened is when she went in there and he had her drink the water may have absolutely been laced with something because in the perfume story, which we'll do it before too long, guys. You'll like it. But he had her smell the perfume, and here he had her drink the water. So did they use it as a medium? Probably. It's what happens afterwards that they do the whole gynecological rape of women.
And the drink. I just keep going back to the drink. It's like you said, they don't need a drink to the aliens don't need a drink to take control of your mind. And
I don't get it. That's why I say
I don't either. Is it like, I don't know. Is it? I don't know. It's just that's a lot to understand.
Is it will
there.
training for the two guys? Like the guy with the perfume bottle, you stepped on her forcefully. Here, smell this.
Yeah,
poof, poof. And she said that he did it forcefully in command. Here, have a glass of water.
In command.
And she said, that she didn't want water because she wanted to go tinkle.
So that tells us the way he was commanding the situation, and he was militaristic, that he had discipline for whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
So, do you believe this could have been I know we're going into beliefs here. I shouldn't have said that, but like a security being, like he's running the security for this whole operation that's going on.
It would be my guess that security beings were on site. We know that in the perfume case, the security beings were literally seen outside in white uniforms. So was there security beings on the third floor in a building, in a 5-story building downtown New Jersey? Well, I know the aliens don't go anywhere without security. Nowhere. They do nothing without security. When they come to abduct someone, the ship sits outside and a couple of Greys will come in, and whether the tech is employed by the Greys that are inside or the tech is employed from the ship, People are literally lifted through their freaking walls, through their attics, completely out of the building, through walls and windows. Their atoms are transferring through these items. And it's not that one person has ever said this, it's that everyone says it.
You know, the ones in the past that talked about, like Betty and Barney Hill and the others that have been on board the ships and they were examined, they talk about being examined by these beings. Do you think that maybe these aliens have reached a point to where now it's so widespread, their operation is so widespread that they're using hybrids to carry out what they normally would have done on board a ship, and maybe that's why they had to have the assistance of a drink? Maybe the hybrids weren't as strong, you know.
We know that for whatever reason, the alien civilization, the insect-like ones, the ones that are actually in control, they do actually employ what people will call the Nordics. It's always the blonde, blue-eyed people, you know, the bright blonde, bright blue-eyed people that people see. They're the same. They're just us, probably raised there, you know, in their society, but they give them jobs. Billy Meyer is probably one of the most famous cases where you know, I don't know what to call them. They're just humans, but people call them the Nordics or whatever. But that's where they seem to be employed a lot, is in his case.
Yeah.
So
Travis Walton experienced the same thing.
Yeah, you know, Travis jumps up, goes to club Three Little Grays. They're trying to fix him. And when they run out the room, the next person or living thing that he sees is one of these blonde, blue-eyed, tall Nordics in a spacesuit who waves him, "Come on, mister, come this way," you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that shows you that even the aliens knew you got to get one of their own kind to deal with them, you know?
You know, another detail in that that you just read was the lack of furniture in the buildings. You know, it was like it was not set up. It was like under construction, we'll say, but maybe it wasn't that it was under construction. They just don't have a need for that.
Like a bad stage set.
Yes.
Like he wrote. Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, we see that mirrored in the book Walking Among Us, where they have to learn, what is a TV? Does every family have a TV? Where does a TV go? Do you always watch TV? When do you watch TV? You know, etc. What is a fork? What is a plate? What is a dinner table? What do you put on a dinner table? What time do you have dinner? What goes on the plate? They have to learn everything. That's the whole program's been going on for 20 years. So you go back to 86 when he was talking to her about that. Well, this is obviously the program at work 30 years ago. It's too bad we didn't get Walking Among Us sooner, but at least we're learning now, you know?
Yeah.
But back in the 80s, they seemed to be, you know, working the first beginnings of this program.
But, you know, the good thing about this work that happened back then, so far back, is that the work was being conducted in a way that you had different people doing it in different places, and their work was not contaminating the other's work. So there was no crossovers in between that work, and all these details that's coming out about all this is firsthand accounts by the abductees themselves, and they're very similar, and they had no contact with each other. These are in different parts of the world, the country, and different age groups and everything.
Yep, that's right.
Because
that was a good one.
Because people would say, you know, well, if Walking Among Us would have come out back in the 70s, then by the time you hit the 80s, everybody that's read it's, they would say, well, everybody that's read it's had an encounter, you know.
Well, yes, true, but the program, the installing of the hybrid human being didn't start until 2001, as Dave says. You know, that's when he started hearing people who had no clue. Cindy from South Philly and Bob from North Philly were explaining the exact same experiences with their personal project hybrid of teaching them what a fork is, what a TV is, what a napkin is, and just every little thing that you learn by being a part of this planet. All the little things that they won't know not being a part of this planet. Shows up there in that office, a desk and a chair and a wastebasket.
Just the
No
basics.
no place for someone to even sit, he said. Just what, stand there?
Wow. And
What I find impressive about it is that they're doing it here on the planet. It's not like they're going to someone's house in their normal invisibility and pulling someone out of a bed. This is operations inside our cities.
now, during the regression sessions, a lot of people, they remember it just like it's happening all over again. So they're reliving it as it happened to them when it happened. But in this
You
case,
feel pain.
yes,
You feel anguish. You cry. You scream in terror. You literally relive the experience.
one of the things that I'm finding interesting about this one is she didn't seem to recall actually seeing an alien. You know what I'm saying? Unless that was deeper, and
Well,
deeper
he didn't go into regression with her on that one. He
okay.
says it right there.
Okay.
Yeah, he says that she seemed reluctant to go to even talk about it, and they were doing regressions with all the typical UFO related stuff.
And you
It
probably
was just this one outlier story that he put in the book, and the reason why he put it in the book is because it matched that strange story about the perfume.
Mhm.
And the girl with the guy in the pizza shop, of them going to job interviews. And do I think that could have happened to a normal human being? No. It seems obvious that they put these things in these people's way to get them to willingly go to a place where they awaited. Ugh.
Now, when that first started out, she said they saw a roadblock, right? And they
When she was a girl, they were talking about an experience when they went to go get pizza. That's a different pizza story.
Okay.
But yeah, they went to go get pizza and they were gone for an hour. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
that's common.
What I thought was interesting about that was it was like a roadblock, but there were strange lights that she talked about, and then in the Betty,
and 4 men.
Yeah, and the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, where they turn the corner and there they are in the road, and the ship's down on the ground, and the aliens come to the car and take them off.
SOP, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Standard operating procedures. Because if it works right, it works, and you do it again until it doesn't work, and then maybe you alter it. And so they got used to this is the way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
As Barney said, I have to take this right. I don't know why I have to take this right. I have to take this right. They're waiting. Right? Barney.
They already had control of him at that point.
They already had control of him. Suggestibility. That's right.
Wow. That's an awesome account there.
Yeah, I love it.
Wow.
Shows you they're here. We're going to give people the perfume story pretty soon, but it shows you that as far back as the late 80s, very early 90s, they were running operations on the ground.
Yeah, on the ground.
They've had a lot of years to prepare for whatever they're about to do. And it sure won't be Greer's fake alien stuff, that's for sure.
There we go.
All right, well, that sounds good for me. What do you think?
I think that sounds pretty good to me.
Well, thanks for showing up, everybody.
Yeah. Until go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say thanks for showing up, everybody, and we'll bring you another chapter real soon.
Well, if another thing I'd like to add is if there's anybody out there that any of these things have happened to, or if this resonates with somebody that they say, well, I think that might have happened to me, feel free to reach out to us at combatufology@gmail.com, and we'll return your email and try to talk to you about some things.
Yeah, I will personally correspond with you if you're having experiences.
This is Combat Ufology with Argo. Until next time, adios.